Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tuesday, March the 3rd, the year 2026, our House Transportation Subcommittee. Members, if you have come into the room, please sign into the electronic system. Mr. Clerk, could you please open the board to take roll? All those members, please let us know that you're present. All right, Mr. Clerk, can you please announce the roll call?
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. The chair detects a quorum as well as the clerk's office. Thank you very much for being here today. We do have a substantial calendar before us. We're going to try to work through diligently and go through in the order of presentation to us. We do have one of the items on there. Item number 1 is also going to be carried by Representative Garrett. He is also number 5 on the calendar as well. At the chair's discretion, we will likely allow those 2 bills to go back to back. Any personal orders from any committee member before we begin? Representative Atchley, you're recognized.
I'd just like to recognize my good friend Kevin Ormby back here from Sevierville. Been a longtime friend, known his family ever since I pretty much can remember. So,
Kevin, welcome. Kevin, is it true that you knew him when he had hair? I can say that. So, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. We will now continue with our calendar. Item number 1 on the calendar is House Bill 2507 by Representative Garrett. Do we have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. I believe you have some amendatory language, sir.
I do. That's Amendment Code 14287.
Looks like Amendment Drafting Code 014287.
That's right, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. Looks like that's going to rewrite the bill and will allow us to have discussion on that. We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor of placing House Amendment Drafting Code 014287 on the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Your bill is amended, and you are ready for discussion. Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. House Bill 2507 as amended strengthens our state's regional and metropolitan airports and focuses on Tennessee's success, safety, and security for our airports. This legislation creates a statewide airport authority board to replace the existing outdated authority boards and instead promote statewide governance of our airports across the state. The new board of commissioners replaces the older boards. It is made up of 9 new commissioners, 2 from each speaker, 2 from the governor, as well as 3 appointed by the new governing body. This bill ensures geographic representation for the statewide airport board of commissioners and works to ensure that all Tennesseans are heard on something that affects all Tennesseans. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm deeply concerned about this legislation, and I believe it is another example of our state probably going a little too far here in taking over and, in essence, vacating all of our regional commissioners and authority boards. And that is quite a challenge for me. Some of the changes that are being made in this legislation that we have in our county of a minority appointee has been taken away. A pilot, which we have on our board, has been taken away. And there's a lot of people, including Kirk Schaffer, former associate administrator for airports for the FAA, that says this could actually create some challenges for the FAA grants that are being given to different entities, with the state now saying that it is going to take over all of our airport authority boards. And so this feels a lot like government overreach and could likely cause significant challenges, I think, to the grants that are being distributed. And again, it is the centralization of power, because if I'm understanding the bill correctly, the governor, the Speaker of the House, the Lieutenant Governor are the only ones to decide who will be able to serve on this board compared to local entities and local regional boards being able to have that power and that influence. And this type of legislation, I'm not exactly sure where it's coming from, I think should worry all of us when our community's voices are being repressed on behalf of some overseeing state board being created in this way. But have you thought through the implications for potential FAA grants with this legislation?
Representative Garrett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe any FFA grant will be subjective or objectively affected by the new authority's ability to make sure they work with the FAA. Secondly, to make sure that I heard some of your concerns right. Yes, indeed, there are some appointments made by both speakers and the governor. There's also appointments made by the actual commission itself. And it also directs some of those appointments to make sure they come from the locality of where that airport is located. It also has detailed information about whom can be appointed to the board. It does include a minority officer. It does say that a female must be appointed, and it also describes that process. It also has certain professions that should be appointed, like a pilot, like a lawyer, like an engineer, that you would hope that a board would consist of, with something that governs something like an airport authority board. So it does dictate, so to speak, what and whom may serve under this authority to make sure we get the proper people that understand airports, that work in that industry, and can make sure that Tennesseans are safe, since these airports are funded by all Tennesseans, not just the counties that each of these airports reside in.
Follow-up question, Representative Pearson.
Thank you. And again, you can hope for those things, but it says industry or commerce. There's no guarantee that people who are part of the aviation industry or have worked in airports is going to be guaranteed a seat to serve in these boards. But what I also didn't hear you articulate, at least at the start here, is what is the genesis and purpose of this legislation? What's wrong with the way that our airports are operating right now and the commissions that we have, that now we need the state to take over all of our airports?
Representative Garrett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did note that in my opening remarks, so let me just kind of repeat that all Tennesseans use every single one of these airports. I happen to live in Sumner County. I use the airport frequently that's in Davidson County. Right now, that representation for the Metropolitan Airport is all Davidson County residents. You, along with me, and along with every member of this body, spend the taxpayers' dollars. Every single person in the state of Tennessee that pays taxes in the state pay and fund a portion of all of these airports' budget. So it's important, I believe, and I believe this legislation directs that, and it's up to this body, if they agree with me or not by voting for the legislation, that it's going to represent all Tennesseans, because these airports are funded by most Tennesseans. Not funded all the way, but there are Tennessee dollars that goes into these airports, and there's no representation for all Tennesseans. And that's what this piece of legislation does.
Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. This vacates all of the boards, correct? Like it's not adding a member from adjacent county. It is not increasing the number of members on regional authority boards. This is vacating all boards and creating one singular state board for all of the state. Am I understanding that correctly?
Representative Garrett.
Yes.
Representative Pearson, your follow-up.
Thank you so much, Chairman. This is why I think this, again, is more overreach into local regional matters, because there would be a world where you could increase the amount of people on the board to include a representative of a contiguous or adjacent county. I think there are so many other ways that this could have been done without vacating all of our community's boards of commissioners that are responsible and who understand the issues, particularly in Memphis as it relates to cargo, in addition to passengers. This seems to be a catch-all that I think is going to be ultimately harmful to the constituencies and the communities that we represent. And I think, it's a really interesting point you made about all people who spend money in Tennessee, the taxpayers, and pay those taxes. I was in an earlier meeting and I asked this question, but undocumented people also pay taxes. And I wonder how we think about their representation collectively as well in our bills that we are bringing forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Bain, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. So I broached this bill, talked about this bill in subcommittee, but this is what overreach nightmares are made of. As I communicated, Nashville is currently in active litigation over the state's attempted takeover of our metropolitan airport. And as Representative Pearson said, this legislation vacates and reconstitutes every metropolitan and regional airport authority board in the state of Tennessee, but only to provide legislative cover in a lawsuit against the National Airport Authority. And it's just blasphemous. For the attorneys watching, I want to make sure I get a few questions on the record. So the state is currently involved in active litigation. Is this amendment connected in any way to that litigation?
Representative Garrett.
No.
Representative Bain.
Thank you. Was this language developed in consultation with counsel involved in that case?
Representative Garrett.
Not to my knowledge.
Representative Bain.
Thank you. Would this restructuring strengthen the state's legal argument that airport authorities are now state-controlled entities?
Representative Garrett.
You're asking me for a legal opinion that I don't have the ability to, though I say about what strengths or weaknesses they have in a current case before the Supreme Court that's already been decided. The arguments have already been made. The briefs have already been done. So that arguments have already been there. There's nothing else that can appear before the Supreme Court that would change the merits of any lawsuit that's before them.
Representative Bain, I'll remind you, this is not a court. We're studying legislation and debating legislation. Representative Bain, you're recognized.
Airport authorities were created to be independent entities for bond markets, for airlines, for local economies, and this bill does not stand on its operational merits. And if it is about strengthening a legal strategy, we should be transparent about that. I understand that you don't think that that's part of it. I represent Nashville. I'm the only one on this committee that it represents Nashville. We are horrified at the overreach by state government, and this is just a routine day for you, but this is a threat to our existence and how we move about in this country and in this state. And so with that, I cannot support this legislation.
Representative Renaud, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sponsor, did you say that there was something in the bill that that those who appoint to the board can in fact obtain names, potential names from the major airports across the state?
Representative Garrett.
I don't know if that's exactly
Okay.
what I meant. The appointees from the board can appoint certain folks. There's half the board essentially, I maybe have my math wrong, are appointed by the speakers and the governor, but then some of the members will come from that board to be appointed. And at least one of those have to be from the locale. So let's say the airport in Knoxville, one of those appointees have to be from Knoxville to make sure Knoxville's represented on the board. Does that make sense?
Representative Renaud.
Yes, thank you so much. Given the state gives so much money to airports, I believe the primary funder, I'm not opposed to the idea of restructuring this because we are giving them that money, and it's great to hear that they are going to provide someone from each locale to be on that board. Thank you for this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Garrett, I will mention, and you and I, we've briefly had the discussion. There's one particular novel airport in that it has members in 2 states in terms of board members, and appreciate you working with that entity, with all offices being considerate of what may happen in that situation as well. So I thank you very much for listening to our concerns and my concerns on that.
My pleasure.
Seeing no other questions or comments, so Chairman Howell, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the bill, Representative Garrett. It's clear the state has a vested interest. When I say vested, I'm talking monetarily. We have a vested interest in not just Nashville, but all of our commercial airports, which includes one near me. That would be Chattanooga, and another one not far away, which would be Tyson McGee from my house. Can you compare how much money the state of Tennessee puts into these airports compared to what the municipals or local governments invest in those airports? Yeah, do you have that number?
Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have it as it relates to the local level. I know what we have historically from the state level, but I'm sure there's some investment, but I'm not sure of those numbers as it relates to the 5 major airports that we're talking about.
Chairman Howell.
Can you share what the state invests in those airports?
Representative Garrett.
Well, this year alone, if memory serves, we have a $50 million appropriation for the airports this year. Over the years, it's in the hundreds of millions of what we have given to. Now, I will say that there's also federal dollars that play into this and a lot in their budget, and they have a robust, like the Nashville airports, their parking alone has quite a bit of revenue that generates. So we're not a huge piece of the funding, but we certainly have invested hundreds and hundreds of $millions of the taxpayer dollars into all these airports over the years.
Chairman Howell.
Thank you for that. If memory serves, I've spoken to the president of Nashville Airports numerous times. They are mandated to be self-sustaining. And as a result of that, I believe I'm correct that Metro Nashville does not put any money into that airport. However, the state of Tennessee does, FFA does. Therefore, we alone have a very vested interest to make sure that all of our airports function properly, that they grow and do the very best that they can. And Nashville has grown to the point, I remember when it was just kind of a stopover. That's a few years back, that's a minute ago. But now it's become the 16th largest airport in the country and growing. 28 million passengers a year, soon to be in about 10 years, 40 million a year. We have a vested interest in making sure that these airports are effective, have good leadership, good members of boards who are business leaders in our community and have expertise in many areas. So I appreciate this legislation and I fully support it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman.
Any closing comments?
No, I will say, just to add to what you did, now that you kind of reminded me, there's some ancillary expenses like response times, right? The Nashville Airport has a sustained within their own response for emergency purposes, but sometimes Metro might respond and that could have a cost to the local, but it's very, very, very minimal at this point for that investment. So I appreciate, Mr. Chairman, your comments on that. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you. I'll now open the board if you're ready to vote. All members in favor of House Bill 2507, please press yes. Any members opposed, please press no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, can you please announce the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes, 2 noes.
House Bill 2507 passes 8-2 to full Transportation Committee. As mentioned earlier, we will now go to item number 5 on our calendars. House Bill 2450, without objection. Representative Garrett, you're recognized on House Bill 2450. You have your motion, you have your second. Do we have some amendatory language, sir?
We do, Mr. Chairman. That ends in 13891 is the amendment code.
All right, and this amendment will make the legislation much like the last. I will entertain a motion on. We have a motion on House Amendment number 1, drafting code 013891. Let's go ahead and place that on the bill. All those in favor of placing amendment drafting code 013891 on the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. If you'd like to say vote no, please let the clerk know. The amendment passes. It is attached to the bill. You are now recognized on House Bill 2450 as amended. You recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and bear with me. This is a large piece of legislation, so let me kind of go through what I have to share, then I'm sure there'll be some questions at the end. As we all know, Tennessee continues to grow, and our challenges of getting people from A to B continue to be a challenge, right? And our surface transportation corridors are increasingly constrained by development, right-of-way limits, and of course, the cost. Technological advancements now make it possible to deploy emerging subterranean transportation systems that move passengers or goods underground with minimum surface disruption. The challenge to rapidly deploy these systems is not necessarily the technology. It's overlapping regulations and a patchwork of kind of bureaucratic delay because you'll be going through different cities. The bill as amended establishes a clear, uniform statewide compliance framework for a subterranean transport infrastructure, which I'm excited about. It creates the Subterranean Transportation Infrastructure Coordination Authority. I'm full of authorities today, I guess. Governing by an 11-member board appointed by the governor and both speakers, along with key state departments. The authority is created only upon execution of a qualifying state lease or by July 30, 2026, and it is subject to review every 2 years of its creation. Let me tell you a little bit about what the purpose of what we're doing here. The portion of this project that's completely underground, the authority establishes one consolidated state-level permitting and inspection process for construction on state-owned property with uniform engineering and life safety standards, and nothing in this bill authorizes construction beneath locally owned property without the locality's consent. For service construction, local governments apply their applicable building and land use standards within a defined structured review process. However, those standards may not be used to prohibit or effectively prohibit a qualifying project. The state fire marshal retains exclusive jurisdiction over the fire and life state safety review and certificates of occupancy to ensure consistent statewide safety protocols are in place. Utilities follow their normal procedures, but adverse decisions are automatically reviewed by the authority to prevent unnecessarily delay or sort of unnecessary bottlenecks that could take place with the tunnel of this side. Any type of action that's filed for judicial review automatically goes to the 3-court judge panel. This framework not only provides certainty to private partners who are willing to invest for this project here in Tennessee at no tax dollar expense, but also ensures that rural communities, including those without extensive permitting infrastructure, are not left out of any potential future innovation of the subterranean tunnel. By clarifying jurisdiction and consolidating subterranean permitting at the state level, the bill reduces fragmentation and ensures consistent oversight over multiple jurisdictions, which all you know could present a challenge for this thing if we're going to a whole bunch of different cities. Ultimately, this bill creates predictability, it protects the public safety, and it positions Tennessee to responsibly oversee next generation infrastructure transportation under consistent statewide standards. Mr. Chairman of the committee, that's what this piece of legislation does. I'm pretty excited about this piece of legislation because it's going to be innovative technology to get people from A to B, and I think that's pretty cool. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Representative Garrett. Questions from Representative Pearson. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and sponsor. This amendment that we have, colleagues, is 24 pages long. I've read through all 24 pages. It's one of our longer bills that I've seen this session. And I think it does require a fair amount of time really to process the extent of what is happening and the likely consequences. One of the things that wasn't mentioned by the sponsor that I think is important to talk about is the Music City Loop, which is being planned in Nashville, which is a tunnel run by the Boring Company, which its founder is Elon Musk. And it'll be for private rideshare services only, for Teslas to be able to take people from the airport to, in essence, down here, because we gave them state land to be able to have one of their openings. Why is that deeply concerning to me? I appreciate legislation that comes from our constituents to help improve the quality of life of our people. But when our state is becoming a billionaire's playground, and the request for $5 million of our taxpayer money to build this authority with 20 new employees, an increase in cost, but also in the size of government to service one of the richest people in the world, it's pretty frustrating and upsetting, particularly when we don't have resources even to fund the summer EBT program for kids in our community. If we could, the legislation mentions after 30 days after an operator contracts with this state for a lease interest in real property owned by the state for the purpose of constructing a transit project, or by July 31st, this board, this authority would be created. Would the authority that's already been given or the lease that's already been given to the Boring Company fall under this?
Representative Garrett.
If any operator that operates, if this becomes law, if there's any operator that does this particular piece of transit, then yes, this would fall under the new authority. Any company would that does this.
Representative Pearson,
Yeah.
follow up.
Thank you so much, Chairman. And one of the big problems, colleagues, that you're going to see with this legislation is how much power it is taking away from all of our localities. Right now, yes, it's in Nashville, but this is going to allow private companies all across our state to be able to wield an immense amount of power and authority that they otherwise would not have. It specifically says that they'll be able to execute contracts and leases prescribed in this chapter, and that the power is inherently and exclusively theirs, even though it's a government function. This is, if we're following along, it's page 4 of Amendment 13891. They can own, acquire, purchase, option, convey, exchange, donate, sell, gift, rent, lease, improve, maintain, operate, and equip real and personal property without the need for separate approval from another state or local government entity, notwithstanding the requirements contained in Section 12-2-112. Why would we be giving this much authority to this group of people to the point that they would be able to ignore, not have to collaborate with, not have to discuss plans with even other state agencies, let alone other local entities?
Representative Garrett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me try to respond to a couple of things that you've said. First, regarding the money, we wholly disagree with what the fiscal note is on this. We don't believe it's going to be that high. We don't believe we need 20 people. That's going to be a fight that we'll have down the road with our fiscal committee. Second, this is an innovative technology that is complicated, right, Representative Pearson? It's a new thing. I don't know back when the railroads came here, when we don't have subways here, but when New York did the subway system, those are complicated systems. They need the authority to enter into contracts with vendors, with folks that build it, with folks that might be affected. This authority just needs the authorization to enter into that particular contract, just like we have boards now that have authorities. The current Nashville Authority has language like this. It doesn't give them an overreaching, ridiculous amount of power, as you presumed in your opening comments before you asked your question. These are regular ways that the authority needs to operate to make sure the authority itself by statute is authorized to talk to locals, elected officials, to talk to state officials, to talk to state departments. Mm-hmm. They need the authority to do that. It's not empowering them to have authority over these. It's saying the authority has that inherent power to make these decisions, to enter into contracts, because a project like this is not, in my view, simply building a home. I mean, a home has probably 5 to 10 to 15 different subcontractors that the contractor certainly has the authority to enter into contracts with its subcontractors. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot different as it relates to this. It's obviously more complicated than that, but the authority needs that inherent power to make sure that they can contract, that they can do the business that they're been to do for building the tunnel. And one of your comments, you made reference to giving land. There's no land that's been giving here. This is a lease that the state of Tennessee is leasing the property for this purpose. And I don't think that me or you would disagree that with the folks that move here, the folks that have families here, how crowded the state has become, how crowded it is to get around Nashville. I'm sure how crowded it is to get around Memphis, that we all need to figure out better ways to get our folks from place A to place B. And what I can tell you, we may disagree on this point, is that I don't believe that there's an appetite for the taxpayers to put billions and billions and billions of dollars into a transit system that's essentially free to them, right? We got to look at these investments. This is not an investment that's costing the taxpayer $1, except for the fiscal note that I disagree with. You got a point there. I completely disagree with that fiscal note. But overall, a system like this, if it was funded by the taxpayer, would be something that, in my view, Tennesseans would never want to spend their money on. And we happen to have an opportunity now that we have where you would pay its user fee. You pay for this opportunity to go from here to potentially anywhere in the state at small cost, and we get cars off the interstate.
Yep.
That's an important piece of what this technology and what this innovation is going to do. But I'm sure your concerns were the same concerns decades ago when railroads came in, when the federal interstate came in. The federal interstate was supposed to be just for commerce, was supposed to be just for trucking, just for moving goods across this country. Now it's completely different than the way it is now, which causes some of the problems that we have today that I wish and I hope we can work together to solve. And I think this is one of those innovative technologies that can solve a lot of our problems.
Representative Pearson, follow up.
Thank you, Chairman. With all due respect to my colleague, I just think you're misunderstanding exactly what this proposed project is. And I'll give you this a document once we conclude here. But I'm glad you mentioned our constituents. Yesterday, with Senator Charlene Oliver and Councilwoman Porterfield, I was at First Baptist Church, Capitol Hill, and there were over 300 residents from Nashville who were opposing this very legislation and this project because they see it for exactly what it is. It is a billionaire co-opting government to his own whims and wills without listening to the people. And the project that you are articulating, talking about public transit, is not this, which is why I think you might just be misinformed. The idea is that people will be able to go in what's in essence a Tesla tunnel. They will be able to go from the airport to downtown, right across the street from First Baptist Church, Capitol Hill, where Reverend Dr. Shane Scott is pastor. And that would be the main drop-off location, just right around the corner from here. There is no public transit. Only Teslas will be able to go in and out of the tunnel. In fact, other concerns that I have with this legislation is that EMS, 911, none of the public services that actually keep people safe are going to be able to access the tunnel without the permission of the boring company. So if you are assaulted, if the car is on fire, no one's able to go into that tunnel that is owned by this private company, despite the fact that they are crossing at points with local streets right above. And so I don't know what you're talking about with public transit. To invest in public transit, which this committee has talked about before, we just have to invest in public transit. And that's going to cost hundreds of millions and may cost billions of dollars across our lifetimes in order to do it. But this is actually not public transit. So I just want to make sure you're clear about that. This is for the ability of people to go from the airport to downtown, in essence, in a rideshare capacity. And they are doing that with, again, $5 million of taxpayer money that's being asked for in this authority that you want to create $5 million we don't seem to have as a state, considering that we have $6 billion less than we did in our last budget that we passed. And so I just want to make sure there's clarity around that. And I know other people on the list, Mr. Chairman, I've got more questions, but one thing that I do want to just make sure we understand here when I talk about power being taken away from local communities and given to this authority. At several occasions throughout this, and this is, I have a question for legal after this, but this is the question. It says a process for appeals is submitted to the authority. So anytime that there is a decline from a local entity of this authority being able to do something, they will be able to ask for an appeal. And that appeal automatically goes to the authority board. Doesn't matter what the appeal is for, it automatically goes to this authority board. And that board is ultimately, and it's decided in this legislation, is the end all and be all because it says that there's no judicial review, which I don't know if that's legal or if that exists anywhere else in code, but there's no judicial review allowed for the decisions that are made by the authority. And if local entities do not approve of these projects for any reason, they have 10 days to approve or deny or offer some recommendations for changes. After the company responds, they have 10 more days to respond. And if it is unsatisfactory to a private company, that private company appeals to the authority, and the authority, as your legislation says, is able to either amend what was given by that locality or reverse what they have done. And then there's no judicial review. That happens, and that's stated in your legislation, I think over 4 times from my reading. So whether it be about utilities, whether it be about construction, all of the jurisdiction ultimately ends up with this authority board that you're setting up, taking away the voice of local people. And so that was my question to legal. Is there anywhere else, and go to page 14, it says a decision made by the authority for an appeal submitted in accordance with subdivision B4 is final for purposes of judicial review. Is this anywhere else in our, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, can we go out of session for that?
Is there objection to go out of session? Seeing no objection, we are out of session. Representative Pearson, if you could direct your question to the attorney.
Thank you. Is there anywhere else in our codes and legislation recently where we are ceding all ability of anyone to have any judicial review to just this one board? And so if you go to page 14, a decision made by the authority for an appeal submitted in accordance with subdivision B4 is final for purposes of judicial review. Are we able to limit people's access to judicial redress for actions that happen as it relates to these private companies?
Mr. Hayes, could you please introduce yourself and answer?
Joel Hayes, Office of Legal Services. Representative Pearson, in my reading of this, it's not clear to me that this necessarily forecloses or prevents judicial review. But the way I kind of see in that it's when it says it's final for purposes of judicial review, sometimes it's one of those things before it's eligible to be heard in judicial review or by a court. It needs to have its administrative appeals process completed. And so I view this as possibly saying that this appeals process through the authority, and once that's completed, that is considered to be final action and can then be considered for judicial review. Again, the legislation doesn't speak to the judicial review process. So it's silent as to that matter, but that's the way I read this language potentially meaning.
So
Wait
only,
a second. Would you like to be recognized?
yes.
Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
So only after going through sort of these processes of the 10 days and 10 days, et cetera, then you're able to go and get reprieve, for instance, in Chancery Court or something like that.
Mr. Hayes.
Essentially the way I read this is that you need to go through this appeals process and essentially this administrative appeals process through the authority. At that point in time, once that's completed, that the decision made by the authority then signifies, okay, this is a final decision and now can be considered for judicial review.
Okay.
The sponsor may have additional information with that, but that's the way I read this.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no objection, any more questions? We're back in session. Representative Garrett, do you have responses? You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To address the appeal process, the authority is invested with exclusive jurisdiction. So of course, if a local has an appeal, it's not going to go back to the local. They won't have any jurisdiction over the particular issue that's in contest or however you want to call it. So that's why the jurisdiction lies with the authority. They appeal to the authority, and then the authority has to make a final decision. Is there an appeal process to that? How long does it take? Well, this, I believe, makes clear that for the purposes of judicial review, which there's a whole section that talks about when you file a lawsuit, it goes to the 3-judge panel. Otherwise, if that language was in there, there'd be no reason to have there's no judicial review. So there's not going to be an opportunity that if there is some sort of contest or dispute and they don't agree with the authority's final appeal language, this can certainly go to court. That lawsuit's just born with a 3-judge panel. I hope that clears up some confusion there.
Thank you. Moving on, we have Chairman Butler. You are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to address some of the comments by some of my colleagues. I think there's a dislike for this particular boring operation just because of the individual that's potentially financing this. And I do want to point out that we would not have a lot of the infrastructure that we have if it weren't for people without some vision. And we have a transportation issue in this state. I think every representative and senator has heard from their constituents with challenges with transportation and so forth. And so I applaud somebody that is willing to take money out of their own pocket to make a significant investment to try to solve one of our infrastructure and transportation problems in our state. And so I appreciate the legislation. I support the legislation, but I think we need to make sure that we're not not supporting something that potentially is solving our infrastructure problems because of the individual that may be financing this project. I don't know what the particular cost is, but this is not going to cost the taxpayers any money for them to bore, and then for the substations and so forth, and the infrastructure that's got to be built to support these. But it will definitely benefit Tennessee citizens, and furthermore, probably will offset some of the surface transportation costs with tourism, and I see lots of economic benefits to Tennessee. So I would definitely caution my colleagues to not support something just because of the person that is financing it. Is for somebody that has signed the front side of a paycheck for decades. I understand what it takes to invest in a business with no guarantee of success. So these folks are investing all of this money with the hopes of being successful to bore from point A to point B, as you mentioned. And so I think we should be supporting them and supporting somebody that's willing to help us solve a transportation problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Garrett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Butler, for those comments. And I will say that the agreement the authority will have is not an exclusive agreement with one particular operator. We don't know who might be in this space tomorrow, a decade from now. There are very, very few that are, and you've mentioned one of those. But my hope is that this can be such a piece of technology that can help people move from A to B, that you never know what other operators might decide to be in this space to do just this at the least amount of tax dollars spent, which is what this project is providing. So thank you for those comments, Representative Butler.
Thank you. Representative Renault is next on the list. She stepped out of the room for a piece of legislation. Representative Bain, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh my God. Okay. I really try to take my job seriously. I try to take legislation seriously, but I am just aghast because this is such a deeply unserious project. You know who Tennessee visionaries were? Cordell Hull, a Tennessean who shaped global diplomacy, Frank Clement, a reform-minded governor who modernized Tennessee's road systems. And then we have Elon Musk, a non-Tennessean and father of 12 children with 3 different women, who says, hey, what if I privatize Tennessee's underground? He comes to Tennessee, state leadership offers him a no-bid contract for state property next to a historic Black church in my district. And they say, hey, to bypass local control, authorities, electeds, and communities who will be impacted by this, we're going to create a Mole People Authority Board that will usher in an era of underground prosperity for all.
Representative Bain, as you pause there, I'm going to ask that we talk about the merits of the legislation.
Thank you.
That we're talking about that it is a business could come in is what we're talking about. We're talking about an individual. I would ask that we stick to the merits of the legislation as we make our comments as well as debate. You're recognized, Representative Bain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess the message to the people of Tennessee is that we don't have enough money to fill potholes on I-40, but we can streamline approval pathway for a massive state board that manages a privatized tunnel for a tech oligarch. I have so many issues with this debacle. It has been heartbreaking. I'm now at just a level of I guess I'm a bit speechless, but throughout the entire process, the boring company has said again and again, no public dollars at any point, state, local, federal, would be devoted to this project. And yet this bill creates a state board that cost $5 million. And I'm just trying to understand, this is a $5 million board. You're creating massive bureaucracy, of which a lot of you all have run on limited government. Help me understand, please, Representative Garrett.
President Bain, I think we've answered that question before of the cost. I disagree with the fiscal note associated with the piece of legislation as well. I understand you're adamantly opposed to the legislation, and I understand the line of questioning that we're going down. I'll ask Representative Garrett to address the finances, the financial part of that, as we're tasked with discussing the transportation aspects of it. Representative Garrett, you're recognized.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And it's similar to the Blue Oval project, right? There's an authority there. The authority for the Nashville airport cost money for those people to serve that board. There is going to be a cost when you put together people and you have to hire a chief executive officer, you have to hire a lawyer. Those people aren't going to work for free. We disagree, as I said before, that it takes 20 people, and even if it was 20 people, that it would be $5 million a year. I can tell you it's not going to sway the way that you feel about the piece of legislation, and that's fine, but we are working diligently to make sure to reduce the cost of that fiscal note. I wholeheartedly disagree with that cost for this piece of legislation, but that's not going to stop what I believe could reduce cost other places. What will 1,800 cars do to the potholes on I-40 in Nashville if they're off our interstates? What will that do if we can get cars off our streets that don't create what we are in pothole season? And potholes are created, since you want to bring up potholes, because we have every single season in the state to frigid below freezing temperatures to 80 degrees the next day. That causes multiple potholes, just like an ice storm causes 800 poles to be broken and takes time to repair. So we are diligently doing that. We diligently take care of our roads, but that's not a serious reason, since you say you take your job serious, to say that this legislation or this innovation or this technology is not good, not only for the folks that travel through Middle Tennessee, but for all folks in Tennessee that want to get to point A to point B in a reasonable way. That's serious. This is serious. This is serious legislation that will help all serious Tennesseans that want to get from point A to point B.
Representative Bain, follow up.
Regarding transportation, my constituents, the city of Nashville, they want light rail. They want money devoted to public transportation and buses. They want bike lanes. They do not want a mole people authority board governing a privatized tunnel. And I just have to say this for the record, Chairman, just let me have this moment. I need this on video so that I can I can play this montage in 6 years when this happens. This tunnel company, which has not employed Tennessee engineers who have never drilled through Tennessee limestone, will hit an artery downtown. A development or a hotel will go under, and it will cause massive devastation. And at that moment, I will have this video to say, I told you so. Thank you.
Representative Garrett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I do know is you mentioned light rail that would be hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, probably billions of dollars to do a light rail system across Middle Tennessee. And here we are, and I have folks that I know. In fact, I'm one of them. I happen to own our old Bank of Gillisville building there in Davidson County and have gone through the ridiculous tax increases that Metro is currently having. We've got buildings that are closing because they're going from having a $129,000 tax bill to $600,000. And they can't swallow that because that's taking their revenue and their lease where they have no profit. So to say that folks would want to bear or have an entree instead of an appetite for more massive taxes to get from A to B when this is costing them nothing to the taxpayer to utilize, and potentially get from Memphis to Mountain City. That is what this innovation does. That's what this project does. That's what this authority is committed to do, to make sure we provide the best services to Tennesseans, both Nashvillians, Memphis, Knoxvillians across the state at the cheapest that we possibly can, and also allowing for their safety to make sure they can go from point A to point B. That's what this does. That's what this innovation does, and that's what the technology does. That's why I'm excited for this opportunity to make sure we provide the best way for Tennesseans to travel this state.
Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a comment. I was sitting here pondering the conversation, and it dawned on me, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I was thinking about New York. If you studied your history in early New York, the subway in New York, which I've been on, and it's a great way to move, but it was started by an entrepreneur. It was private enterprise. Our electric companies originally started by Mr. Thomas Edison, Mr. Tesla. Those were private companies. Look what we have today. I've heard people in Nashville say to me, if we'd have just had the foresight to build a subway, and here we are, we have this opportunity. I think it's a great opportunity. Who knows what technology in 10 years from now will look like? But I do know from what I've seen and read about, it's working fine in Las Vegas. They've moved 4 million passengers in the first year with not one safety issue. And I think that's sandy soil out there. So I think it's a great step forward. It's a piece of the puzzle in mass transit, and I look forward to seeing it happen. I hope I can take the first ride. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman McAlvin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
Previous question has been called, cuts off all debate. Any closing comments, Chairman?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'll open the voting. All those in favor of sending House Bill 2450 to full Transportation Committee, please indicate by voting yes. Any opposed, please vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change your vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes, 2 noes.
Thank you. House Bill 2450 receiving a positive vote will move forward to full Transportation Committee. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your indulgence as well. We have some folks waiting in the wings. We're going to try to go back through the calendar as expeditiously as possible. I got that word out. That's 12-letter word there. We're now on item number 2, House Bill 2544. We have a motion. We have a second. I believe that Representative Chairman Baum has signed on as a co-sponsor of this legislation. Is that accurate, sir?
Yes, I'm a brand new sponsor.
Brand new to the sponsorship, but old to this committee. Representative Baum, you have your motion. You have your second. Any amendments?
No.
You are recognized for description.
Thank you, Chairman Hawk. This is a bill from the Department of Revenue. It corrects a typo in our code. It deletes some repetitive definitions. It moves another set of definitions from one section of the code to another. It clarifies. I'll give you one example. This bill says that hydrogen gas dealers are under the same state permitting and tax filing requirements as normal motor fuel dealers. And I've got other interesting examples. Just signify that you want more and I'll provide more. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I can say in conclusion that this bill will not change the tax burden or procedures on any taxpayer.
Thank you. And we do see a non-significant fiscal note as again, we're not as interested in those issues, but we're talking the transportation issue. So any questions or comments for the sponsor? Seeing none, you ready to vote? We'll open the voting. All those in favor of sending House Bill 2544 to full Transportation Committee, please vote yes. Any opposed, please vote no. Has every member voted? Any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, could you please announce the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes, 0 noes.
House Bill 2455 receiving a positive vote will move forward to full transportation.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Item number 3 on our calendars is House Bill 1856 by Chairman Rudd. Chairman Rudd, you have your motion, you have your second. I believe we do have some amendatory language that may make the bill.
Yes.
Can you give me a drafting code, sir?
13986.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a motion on House Amendment number 1, drafting code 013986. Let's go ahead and place that on the bill with your motion and second. All those in favor of placing this on the bill, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Your bill is amended, ready for description. You're recognized.
Thank you. This amendment does something kind of a miracle. It's made just about everybody happy or deferred. What this bill does, and the amendment creates a new section. They didn't want it. We currently have a length of service of 200,000 or 15 years on school buses. But we have after school programs like with the Boys Club, YMCA, other youth organizations that they can't afford to buy new buses and they don't use them on a daily basis with lots of miles. So this is created to make an exception and a new part of code that would allow for such organizations for after school programs to drive it for 300,000 miles in 20 years, but they have to be inspected twice a year to make sure they're safe to go. So that's what the bill does. That way, organizations like Boys and Girls Clubs, which don't have the money to buy new buses on a regular basis, would allow them in a limited capacity to keep using their school buses.
Thank you for that description. Vice Chairman Butler, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move previous question.
Previous question is called. All those in favor of sending House Bill 1856 to full Transportation Committee, please vote yes. Any member opposed, please vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change your vote? Mr. Clerk, please announce the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes, 0 noes.
Item number 3, House Bill 1856 has just received a miracle, I think you said in your opening comments, and will move forward to full Transportation Committee with a positive vote.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Thank you. Item number 4 on our calendars is by Chairman Hale. Chairman Hale, thank you for patiently waiting. We have House Bill 2268 that has received a motion and a second. You are recognized. Excuse me, House Bill 2267. I'll correct that one more time. Chairman Hale, you recognize House Bill 2267.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. Kind of feel odd being on this side and everybody sitting over here. What this bill does, this was brought to me by some nurserymen and farmers in our area where nursery is real big and where they're trying to go from one farm to another. And current law, a UTV may not be operated on a road that has a speed limit over 45. So this legislation would allow farmers, plant nursery owners, just for agricultural uses, to be able to use those on state highways. And I worked with the Department of Safety and had communication with them with this. And so that's what this bill does.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Howell, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And you answered my question. You said you had worked with safety. We tried our best to put this issue to bed, I believe, last session. And I just wanted to know if you'd work with safety. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? We're ready to vote. We'll open the board to vote. All those in favor of sending House Bill 2267 to full Transportation Committee, please press yes. Any opposed, please press no. Has every member voted? Any member wish to change your vote? Mr. Clerk, can you please announce the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes, 0 noes.
House Bill 2267 receiving a positive vote will move forward to full Transportation Committee.
Thank you, committee and chair.
Thank you, Chairman Hale. We have already dealt with and disposed of item number 5 on our calendars. Item number 6 on our calendar, House Bill 2244. The request has come to the chair to roll for 1 week. House Bill 2244 will be rolled 1 week without objection. We're now on item number 7 on our calendars. Item number 7, House Bill 1690 by Chairman Hicks. You have your motion, you have your second. Chairman Hicks, I think you have worked extensively on at least one amendment and maybe 2 amendments. If you would like to tell us those codes, and we'll get those before us.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The first amendment will be 014383.
Okay. Okay. Hold on just a second, Mr. Chair.
I don't know how you want to go about that.
There will be an order of adoption of these amendments that will help us, Chairman Hicks, as you.
Let's go with Amendment 014218.
All right. And as noted, I will entertain a motion on House Amendment number 014218. I have a motion, I have a second. And just procedurally, this amendment will rewrite the bill, and then we'll add an amendment to that, Chairman. So are you ready to vote? All those in favor of adding House Amendment number 1, drafting code 014218 to the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. It is on the bill. Now I believe we will entertain House Amendment drafting code 014383. We have a motion, we have a second. Let's go ahead and place that on for discussion purposes. All those in favor of placing amendment drafting code 014383 on the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. You are now recognized for your bill as amended to describe, sir. Chairman Hicks.
I'm going to explain the amendment right quick. What the amendment does is it sunsets the proof of insurance registration requirement in 2029 and requires the department to collect data on a short-term policy cancellation for 2 years. This ensures that we have measurable data and compliance behavior before making a policy permanent. So that's what the amendment does. Now I'll explain the bill if that's okay.
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is about one simple principle. If you drive on Tennessee roads, you should be financially responsible for the damage you cause. Right now, too many uninsured drivers are putting responsible families at risk. When they cause accidents, it's not just them who carries the burden. It's the insured driver, the small business owner, the single mom who's paying her premiums every month. And let's be honest, the current penalties are so low that for some, it's cheaper to gamble than to comply. That is not accountability. That is an incentive to ignore the law. This legislation fixes that. First, it requires proof of financial responsibility before a vehicle can be registered or renewed. Registration should confirm compliance, not just be a transaction. Second, it increases penalties for those who repeatedly drive uninsured. If you knowingly break the law, there should be meaningful consequences. Third, it modernizes our insurance verification system so we can identify noncompliance, efficiency, and fairly. And finally, it puts a cap on non-economic damages that someone can collect in court if they decide to drive uninsured. Economic damages remain. Passengers are protected. Catastrophic injuries have higher limits. This is balanced and fair. Members, this bill does not punish responsible drivers. If you carry insurance, you will never pay $1 under this legislation. But if you choose to ignore the law, you should not expect the rest of Tennesseans to absorb that risk for you. It's about fairness, it's about accountability, and it's about protecting responsible Tennesseans. And I respectfully ask for your support for this legislation. And members, I am currently also working with the trial lawyers and could see in the near future another amendment coming to work with them and try to get everything worked out. So thank you for your time. Appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members? I will tell you, Chairman Hicks, I worked on legislation of this nature several years ago, and it has been a challenge. It is a desperate need that on a weekly basis, I hear of an accident that has occurred with an uninsured motorist. I have been hit by uninsured motorists that have been very trying experiences for myself and my family. So I know what you're working on, and I appreciate the spirit in which you're working. I thank you as well for indicating that there is still work to be done with our Trial Lawyers Association. I feel comfortable. Someone had signed up to speak with them, but I think we're good to go forward, hearing what you just mentioned to us a moment ago, and feel like you've done some yeoman's work to get us to this point on this piece of legislation. I have to be frank, I couldn't do it. You're the one that's done it. And I wanted to say thank you very much, Chairman Hicks, for your work. Any further questions? Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to echo what you've just said. In 12 years, I've never seen a sponsor work any harder on a serious issue than you have. And you're certainly to be commended for the work that you've done. I personally have been a victim during this session of a hit and run uninsured motorist. And a week before that, one of our colleagues in the Senate was a similar situation, hit by a hit and run driver on the same stretch of highway I was on 24, about a mile apart. It is a serious issue, and we've grappled with it for a number of years. And it looks like you're going to bring it across the finish line, and I commend you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'm sorry if I sort of missed this. This legislation, can you talk a little bit more about what it does that will help us with the uninsured motorist challenges that we have?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sure. it will require every person that at initial registration to show proof of insurance at every initial registration. Then whenever you go to renew your registration, it will be simple process, except for those that have received the first fine and have gotten the third letter. The Department of Revenue sends out a lot of letters to folks. Actually, they send out about 35,000 a week to uninsured motorists. So whenever a person has received the third letter stating that they have just received a $500 fine and their registration has been revoked, those folks will have to show proof of insurance upon registration. This legislation, currently the first fine is $25 and the second fine is $100. This moves that to $500 for the first fine and $1,000 for the second. That's part of the problem is currently it's actually cheaper to buck the system and pay the fines than it is to go get insurance. And for most of these folks, the insurance is not extremely expensive at all. $30 or $40 a month will cover it. So this really puts teeth into the legislation that will help folks to go get insurance, and it should help the folks that currently carry insurance is the folks that I'm worried about the most. So,
Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you so much for further explaining that, Representative Hicks. I really appreciate the intent, I think, of this legislation, right? Because I agree with you, and I saw the number of uninsured motorists that we have for in our state, and it's quite substantial. I think the challenge that I'm running up against is if someone right now can't afford the insurance, because insurance isn't based necessarily or entirely on your driving record. And that's one of the problems that I have with our insurance companies, and they're just gouging people. Because if you live in an area where there are people around you who are uninsured, you actually pay a higher cost, whether you have never had an accident or not. And again, that's why insurance companies are so deeply problematic. And so even for people who might be trying to get access to insurance, it may, if it was just their driving record, be $30 or $40, but it could be increased just because people around them may not have insurance. And so how are we thinking about, in essence, people who are poorer, right? Like, is there anything that this legislation is addressing to create some way for people to be able to get that insurance? Or is this just more the penalty side financially if you've been notified and you still don't have it?
Representative Hicks, I think I'll let you answer that. That's already something that you've mentioned before, but you recognize Chairman Hicks.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, I think this just puts a priority and accountability on folks. I mean, this is 2026 and folks that can't afford insurance or can't afford to drive a car, there is means now for those folks to get around. I mean, we have NetTrans, we have Uber, we have all kinds of bus systems in most of the areas that you talk about. I mean, there is a lot, but a lot of these folks are just purposely making a decision to drive a vehicle on a road without insurance. And it's actually gotten to the point to where Tennessee floats in between third and fourth worst in the nation for uninsured motorists. So it's I have a heart for poor people just as much as anyone in this room. Okay, I truly do. But there comes a point to where accountability and priorities has to take over, because I know sometimes folks get in a predicament where they don't make this a priority. As far as, we have a lot of people on SR22 insurance, and I've learned a lot about SR22 insurance. And this legislation, the way that it beefs up the vehicle verification system throughout the state that the Department of Revenue will work on, it will act. There is a there is a chance that this could really help and do away with SR 22 insurance, because the system that we're going to be going to is going to be acting just like SR 22 insurance on everything. So some folks that has higher insurance, this legislation will truly, truly help them. So there's a lot to this bill, a lot of moving parts and a ton of work that's going to be going into it. That's the reason it doesn't go into effect for quite some time, because we have a lot of work to do on it and I'm excited to see what comes out. So thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. and
Representative Pearson, final.
Thank you, Chairman and sponsor.
Thank you. You ready to vote? All those in favor of sending House Bill 1690 to full transportation committee, please vote yes. Any opposed, please vote no. All those, has every member voted? Does any member wish to change your vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes, 2 noes.
House Bill 1690 will go forward to full transportation committee with a positive vote.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Thank you. We're now on item number 8 on our calendar, House Bill 1824 by Representative Raper. Representative Raper, you have a motion and a second. Sir, I think that you do have an amendment on this bill. I'm going to give you drafting code 014185. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. You have a motion, you have a second. So we'll rewrite the bill. Let's go ahead and get the language before so we can debate. All those in favor of placing House Amendment number 1, drafting code 014185 on the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Your bill is amended and ready for description. Representative Raper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everyone. This is actually a simple bill, but something that really needs to be done. We currently, as is, like 15 family restrooms out of 19 total restrooms in the state at our rest areas. And we are asking that a comprehensive plan be made to build all these restrooms as a catch-up, that one actually built in the next 2 years as a starter, the remaining 13 to be built according to the timeline TDOT creates in their comprehensive plan. I've also been with Mr. Klein. I think he's here to speak if you would like. And we have the amendments made were due to be more friendly to TDOT. So we arranged the bill according to them so they could accept the bill and support it.
Thank you. And I'll help you a little bit there, Representative Chairman Raper. The mandatory language essentially allows TDOT to, as they refurbish and reconstruct these rest centers across the state of Tennessee, which hopefully we'll all vote in favor of the budget because it has a substantial dollar amount to go reconstruct and refurbish these welcome centers. They will include these adult changing tables, which you have referenced and mentioned. So is that accurate?
Yes, sir. It is. And I just want to say to you that initially we were sort of pressing, and now we've given them 2 years for the first one, and they're totally fine with that. And then beyond that, I think that it was a little short timing for them to get all these restrooms in. And so we've cushioned that more where they have much more latitude as far as timeline.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the presenter? Are you ready to vote? We'll open the board. All those in favor of sending House Bill 1824 as amended to full transportation, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Excuse me. Let's back up. I'm talking amendments there. The words are hard today, so I apologize. We'll open up the vote. Mr. Clerk, would you please announce the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes, 0 noes.
House Bill 1824 receiving a positive vote will move forward to full transportation committee.
Thanks, Mr. Chair and committee.
Thank you. Representative Raper, you are now recognized on item number 9, House Bill 1912. You have your motion, you have your second. I think we've got some amendatory language on that. I'm going to let you give me some amendment drafting codes on that, sir.
Sure. First one I have is let me back up. 014187.
Okay. We've got two different amendments, and I'm just going to double check if it matters what order we take these up, President Raper.
No, sir.
Give me 3 seconds. I'll tell you what, Representative Raper, just for ease and to ensure we got a belt and suspenders, I'm going to advise that the committee take up House Amendment Drafting Code 013004
Yes, sir.
first in the scheme of the process. I'll entertain a motion. Have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor of placing House Amendment Drafting Code 013004, please on the bill, please say yes. Yes. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. That amendment goes on the bill. Now we're ready for your second amendment, Drafting Code 014187. I'll entertain a motion. We have a motion. We have a second. Let's go ahead and place that on the bill. All those in favor of placing Amendment Drafting Code 014187, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Your bill is amended, and you are recognized for description.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As introduced, this bill requires the Department of Transportation to install signs or markers displaying language or an appropriate symbol indicating to motorists that a rest area or welcome center has an adult-sized changing table. This requires the department to publish on its website the locations of rest areas and welcome centers that have an adult-sized changing table. In the past, Chairman Doggett worked with TDOT and the governor to add adult-sized changing tables in a $1 million grant. This is continuation of that mission. This bill would make it so that rest areas and welcome centers with an adult changing table would require to display signage or language along the interstate indicating that an adult changing table is there. They also must add all the locations that have an adult changing table to their website. If passed, this will take effect July 21st, 2026.
Thank you. You've heard the description. Any questions or comments?
May I add one comment, please, sir? Thank you, Mr.
You're
Chair.
recognized.
Also, Mr. Klein has been working with me on this bill, and they also are accepting and supporting this bill also.
Okay.
Thank you.
And again, I think this is a course of business type situation where as signs are being replaced, that we will do that as well. So thank you. Seeing no further questions or comments, Mr. Clerk, I think we've got the board open. All members who are in favor, please vote yes. Any opposed, please vote no. Any member wish to change your vote? Mr. Clerk, please announce the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes, 0 noes.
House Bill 1912 receiving a positive vote will move forward to full Transportation Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee.
Thank you. We're now ready for item number 10 on the calendar, House Bill 1712 by Representative Reeves. Representative Reeves, you have your motion, you have your second. The amendment will make the bill. I have drafted code 013276. Is that accurate?
That's correct, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion and a second. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor of placing amendment drafting code 013276 on the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. You are ready to describe your bill as amended, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee. Electric bicycles are becoming more common across Tennessee. This bill simply updates the law to better reflect how these bikes are actually being used, and I'll go into the details if you'd like in a moment, but overall, this bill simply provides clearer rules, supports safe integration of electric bikes onto our roads, and it gives communities the flexibility they need to address local safety concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Bain, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Reeves, I've had a few constituents email me about this bill, so I'm just going to read an email. If you could respond to it, that would be fantastic. While I understand the intent behind establishing uniform standards, I am concerned that this legislation unnecessarily strips local municipalities of their ability to manage their own greenways and multi-use trails. Local officials and community members are in the best position to determine which types of vehicles are safe and appropriate for their specific local parks and recreational paths. Safety on shared use paths is a primary concern for many residents, including myself. By limiting the authority of local governments to regulate or restricted certain classes of e-bikes, this bill could lead to increased speeds and potential conflicts on trails used by families. Thank you.
Representative Reeves, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the question. We've seen a lot of emails flying. This actually does the opposite of that. It gives local municipalities and counties and even the state over state-owned paths a better ability to control and regulate e-bikes on their roads and paths, and that's what it's intended to do. I believe that's what it does.
Any follow-up, Representative Bain?
No.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Representative Reeves. I appreciate you bringing it in. We had a brief conversation in the elevator coming down. And I have heard from a bike shop in my district that sells these Class 3 e-bikes, which are limited to 28 miles per hour with still a pedal system to it. And his fear is that we are confusing, maybe the right word, confusing a e-motorcycle with an e-bike. And we'll have some more conversations about this. I understand that it creates a permissive nature, as you answered the question, a permissive nature for local governments to be able to create ordinance to regulate these e-bikes in the future. There is concern that from my bike guy who has $20,000 of inventory invested in these e-bikes, that should our community set forth some rules and regulations, it might hamper his sales. And he has expressed that concern to me. If you'd like to comment on that, or we can talk later, but I'll let you. You're recognized, Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate that question. And I think as people started to read this bill, they saw the first iteration, the caption, and had some concerns about that. The amendment actually makes the bill, and with regard to Class 3 e-bikes, they do move at a faster speed. Part of this really is generated by over Christmas. A lot of tweens got e-bikes, and some of the parents bought those Class 3 bikes, and it's seeking to maybe regulate those a little bit better. The language is clearer than what already exists, but what already exists in law is that it talks about the different classes of e-bikes, and it allows local regulation of it. It just makes that clearer. The other thing it does with respect to Class 3 is it moves the minimum operating age from 14 up to 16 because of that faster speed.
Thank you very much for that description. Any questions or comments for the presenter? Seeing none, are you ready to vote? We'll open the board. All those in favor of House Bill 1712, please vote yes. Any opposed? Please vote no. Has every member voted? Would any member like to change your vote? Mr. Clerk, please announce the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes, 2 noes.
House Bill 1712 will move forward with a positive vote to full Transportation Committee.
Thank you, Chair and Committee.
Thank you, Representative Reeves. We're now on item number 11 with limited time. Representative Love, you have received a motion. You have received a second. You're recognized for description of House Bill 1942.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. House Bill number 1942, we call the Precious Cargo Act, and it is designed to amend current legislation to add to current law the ability for persons who have difficulty communicating because they may have a stutter to be able to have that on their driver's license, so that when they are stopped by law enforcement, the law enforcement officer knows that they're not delaying their response because of refusal to respond, but that they have an issue communicating.
Thank you for that description. And looking at this summary, this is codifying some current practices that were adopted during the 2021 Precious Cargo Act that this General Assembly passed at that point in time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the sponsor? Seeing none, we'll open the board to vote. All those in favor of sending House Bill 1942 to full transportation committee, please vote yes. Any opposed, please vote no. Has every member voted? Any member wish to change your vote? Mr. Clerk, could you please announce the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes, 0 noes.
House Bill 1942 receiving a positive vote will move forward to full transportation committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members.
Thank you. Chairman and members, we are at a hard stop. I'm so sorry. And Representative Towns,
I'm chopped liver.
you're not
Without the
chopped liver.
onions.
You're not chopped liver. You're just liver is what you are.
No
So,
onions.
and I owe an apology to Representative Shaw as well. My deepest apologies. We have hit the clock, and I'm sorry for that. All bills that are remaining on this calendar will be rolled to the next available space on the next available calendar.
Next week, I guess. Thank you. We'll see you then.
Without objection. As this committee is now done, we have a motion to adjourn. Meeting adjourned.